What is going on, everyone? Nick or Catalyst here, recording this for about the 47th different damn time because the software can be an absolute bitch at times, and I'm sure that's YouTube friendly, but that's how it is sometimes. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, welcome back to the channel. So today's video is a topic that is very near and dear to my heart. It's the second episode of the How to Not Suck series for Battlefield 5, and today we're going to be talking about the Scout class. That's right, we're talking about sniping, ladies and gentlemen. But why is this episode so special for me? Well, the very first How to Not Suck video was on sniping, and that video was the first video of mine to blow up over a year ago at this point. I think it's sitting around 45,000 views right now, but the views don't matter as much. There is a lot of sentiment around what that video means to me as a jumping off point for really the player that I became. I was a person that sniped all the time, and I was one-dimensional and bad at the game, and now I'm somebody who eventually made it to be on an ESB competitive team a year down the road, and that's pretty special. But that was Battlefield 1 sniping. This here is Battlefield 5 sniping, and it's a whole different beast, so we're going to get into all of it today. Make sure you drop a like on the video if you enjoy it, and let's get right into it. So as you know by now, for the rest of the class videos, I titled the video, How Not to Suck at This Class. But even though this is, in fact, the Scout class video, this video is all about sniping because, let's face it, that's what people really want to know how to do well. And it stinks to say, but the Scout class is the most selfish class that you can play in the game because you have no obligations on the battlefield. You don't have to destroy tanks, you don't have to give health or ammo. Your job as a scout is selfishly just to pop heads off their shoulders and spot people, which is what we're going to work on today, how to make you more efficient at this as a sniper and to stop dying as much on kill streaks. Now, I may not be the sniper that I used to be. I think it's very easy to see that my glory days as a sniper are over. There are some flashes of greatness, as you can see in the gameplay, but I don't play Scout a lot at all anymore, and I think it's really one of those classes that you need to play consistently to be really good at. So that's my first tip. If you are serious about becoming a better sniper, play Scout as much as you can. I'm guessing that a lot of you do this anyways, but muscle memory is probably the most important aspect to being a good sniper in terms of your mechanics. So playing sniper repeatedly over and over again, memorizing bullet drop over distances for headshots, memorizing how much of an adjustment you need to make after your aim is bad on the first shot. I know it's a very simple and obvious tip, but you would be surprised how much repetition actually helps you. I would say the best game mode to practice this all in is Breakthrough. It's a very good game mode for sniping. There always seems to be a lot of snipers on both sides, so honestly, it's the perfect training ground for counter sniping and getting a lot of shots down range, learning your sensitivity and your ranges. And that somewhat leads into my next package of tips for you, and that all revolves around your sensitivity. Now, for me personally, since I mostly play the other three classes apart from Scout, I play at a higher sensitivity, specifically with a higher 6 sensitivity for snap aiming. But for all you snipers out there, what you want to fiddle with is your sensitivity, of course, first of all, and your soldier zoom aim sensitivity. Now, normally I would suggest that you have your sensitivity from anywhere around 80 to 100 for stick, and then around 110 to 130 for zoom aim. Again, it's important to note that your regular stick sensitivity just affects how fast you turn when moving and running. Soldier zoom aim sensitivity affects the speed that your character adjusts aim while aiming down sights, but what I suggest is that you play at a lower sensitivity for both if you are trying to main the sniper class, because in comparison to other classes, you don't need speed as a sniper, you need precision. So playing at that lower sensitivity will give you a lot more control, and you won't have to overcorrect your aim all the time. I know a lot of competitive snipers that choose to play on lower sensitivities because of how much of an advantage it gives them, which I kind of had that problem because it's a huge problem for me that I ran into getting this gameplay because my settings are arranged for my playstyle with other classes that often revolve around close range situations. Out of the two sensitivities, the soldier zoom aim sensitivity is the more important one that you should focus on. I would fiddle with that before anything else. Ideally, you're going to want to have about a medium to high stick sensitivity and then a medium to low zoom aim sensitivity. I will leave a link in the description for my settings video that further goes into detail on all the settings in the game. I know this first tip was a lot to take in. So how about the actual sniping in the game? Well, I already mentioned that the sniping in Battlefield 5 is a lot different than in 1, more different than most people think. DICE has really done something pretty complicated with the sniper class in this game because they've made sniping both harder and easier at the same time. I know that's very contradictory, but I don't know any other way to explain it, because when you look at it, what are the major gameplay changes? Well, first and foremost, the sweet spot mechanic has been removed and is not in Battlefield 5, which in my opinion is a good thing. Now, for those of you who have been watching me for a long time, you know that I used to love the sweet spot mechanic, but over time I just got very annoyed with the fact that some people were getting easy one-shot kills on me because I happened to be walking or running within a certain distance away from them, which really had nothing to do with anything that the sniper was doing, but more with just me having to waltz into that area while he was stationary. But the sweet spot is gone in Battlefield 5, but what DICE has done to kind of ease this transition, even though I disagree with this, is they have made the headshot hitbox pretty generous for snipers, and it is much easier to get headshots. Also, something to consider is that with the attrition system, many people may not be at full health, so the Scout class really has the ability to be extremely strong with body shots, if not the strongest class in the game. So, when it comes to actually sniping in the game, Catalyst, come on, get on with it. How do I get better? Well, if you watch the original video, which will also be linked in the description, we talked a lot about precision and positioning and how important they were to you and your survival as a sniper. And they still are extremely important. We are just going to kind of tweak how we use these to our advantage in the game. I think unfortunately what has ended up happening is that I included too much information in the very first video that I made a year and a half ago, and now all my tips are kind of retreading the same kind of ground. So, I mean, I spent so many hours pouring so much time and effort into that video that I really left no stone unturned for myself. So if you've heard this all before, please forgive me. Let's talk about positioning here. Getting a few things out of the way right off the bat. Do not, under any circumstances, stay camped at the back of the home flags. Do not, under any circumstances, camp on the far edges of the map in which you have to walk 500 miles to get to. Do not, under any circumstances, run out in the open trying to quickscope like you just joined FaZe. I'm sure for those of you that don't care, you're going to go ahead and do this anyway, but if you do not care, why are you watching this video in the first place? But for those of you that do care, you can try doing these things. You're going to find that they don't work. You aren't going to help your team, and you aren't going to help yourself either. And I think that unfortunately for this game, long-range sniping is even less viable than it was in Battlefield 1. So I would try and not go for the sick long-range snipes that will show up on Broken Machine's top 5 plays of the week. And that should be reflected in your skill trees. I would stay away from all the perks that benefit long-range sniping, such as the bipod or the rangefinder. I think it's the zeroing finder in this game or something like that. But you should focus on things like a straight pull bolt that helps you rechamber faster, as well as your mobility as a sniper. For sniping in Battlefield 1, we put a lot of emphasis on moving as much as you possibly could while sniping, making sure that you weren't stationary, because being stationary in one place for too long usually resulted in death, which we also talked about line of sight and how you want to eliminate about 75% of the possible areas in which you can get shot from. Which is why Breakthrough is such a good mode for sniping and learning how to snipe, because for the most part both teams are just sandwiched together, fighting face to face, and you don't have to worry about everything around you, just what's in front of you. So when you go into the more liberal game modes like Conquest and Frontlines, in which there is a lot of freedom in where you can go, that falls more under the lines of map knowledge and awareness, which we covered a little bit in the How to Stay Alive Longer video a month or so ago, although that video wasn't necessarily geared towards sniping. I know that I'm referencing a lot of other videos in this video, so just view this video as the root of the tree that you can go off to the other branches, the other videos, later if you need to. In terms of positioning for Battlefield 5, those things about moving around as a sniper and lines of sight are still really important, but as a sniper you have one major thing working to your advantage, and that is that there is no 3D spotting in this game. So therefore now you don't have to go as far or worry about repositioning as much as a sniper, which is a good thing because now you can focus on getting more kills in one spot. So what you should start working on is finding areas that are advantageous to you as a sniper. High ground, very cluttered areas, and instead of relocating after getting kills, find another line of sight around the same area and working around those locations. You'll find me working on the water tower on Aerodrome quite a bit here at some point in the gameplay. For all I know, we've already passed it by now, but more to the point, notice how I've worked around the water tower area a few times in the gameplay, because there is a lot of cover, and B, with the flags my team had, my lines of sight are towards the B and the C flag, and I eliminate a lot of the areas in which I can get shot from just by my positioning. Other good spots include rocks, head glitches, and other spots in which you can have what I like to call double-sided lines, areas that you can easily switch the lines of sight with how the turnover of flags go. So areas like buildings with windows on multiple sides, the barns. Really, I think that you have a lot more options on where you can go where you can feasibly post up in this game because there is no spotting, as long as you aren't stupid about where you are. So you definitely want to avoid common areas like the bridge on Narvik and Twisted Steel, the train areas on Rotterdam and Devastation, lying prone on the cliffs of Hamada, the church on Eris, as well as understanding where not to be when the map flow changes. You'll see me make a lot of mistakes in some of the games play where I kind of play like my normal playstyle and I get caught up in between a huge rush of people going from one flag to the next because that's how I normally play. But I can't win those gunfights with a sniper, so you definitely need to be smarter about it than I was. I would also just suggest not building an incessant amount of fortifications because to me, on the other side of things, when I see fortifications being built, that tells me that obviously there is somebody there. Blow it up or go search it, especially because I think that the last thing that you want to do in a game where snipers are hard to see and find is bring attention to yourself with a whole bunch of fortifications. Now, when it comes to the weapons in the Scout class, all of the snipers are viable. There isn't really one sniper rifle that is worse than the rest, at least not noticeably worse, but I would advise you to not use the two-shot rifles. I just don't think that they are very good, and more often than not, you'll get outshot by a DMR anyway, so you should probably just use one of the DMRs like the Gewehr 43 if you are going to use those types of weapons, and by the two shots, I mean the self-loading rifles like the RSC. But as far as choosing which bolt-action rifles to use, it's really up to your preference, but I will say that it is this way because in Battlefield 5 there's almost no emphasis on bolt velocity like there was in Battlefield 1, and I'm really kind of disappointed by this, that they dumbed this down, so to speak. And I know that it may be historically accurate, as weapons did progress from World War I to World War II, and they did get better, but I'm still kind of disappointed. So basically, long story short is, it doesn't matter which rifle you choose because the bullet velocity isn't really going to matter into the super long ranges. It's simply the damage model that you prefer the best. Here's a screenshot of the 4 bolt-action rifles in the game currently at this moment. Of course, it should be mentioned that for all of these videos that these are based off the weapons in the game currently at the time, and if a new weapon is released through the Tides of War that is significant enough to change the meta, I'll make a separate video on that weapon. But so far, all the weapons have been pretty average. But back to the point, if you take a look at the rough values of the 4 main rifles on the lower half of things, you can see the damage model for all 4, as well as their statistical time to kill with modifiers. And if I'm interpreting all of this correctly, bullet drop modifier is set to 12 for all the rifles, as is drag set at 0.2, which does affect bullet velocity. Now, when you search further down the line, you do find differences in bullet velocity marked as speed Z, which is a vector, obviously, which does show some differences in this screenshot, but these aren't going to be really significant enough to feel or tell in the game until much longer ranges, which if you're sniping at those ranges in this game, you aren't going to be hitting much anyway. So at the end of things, bullet velocity is there, and it does matter. That's why so many people like the Krag Jorgensen and the Kar 98 and the Gewehr 95, is because they do have that faster bullet velocity in comparison to the Lee Enfield. But if you're looking primarily at the bullet damages, you have 2 groups to choose from: the high damage, less mag count options, or the lower damage, high mag count options. If you ask me, based on the data, I really like the Krag Jorgensen as a mesh of all 3 things: a higher magazine count, even though it's only 1 more bullet, a higher initial bullet velocity, and a decent reload time. And of course, I should note that these values that you are seeing on the screen right now are the base version of the weapons on SimThick. There are no specializations equipped. You can feel free to pause the video on the screenshots if you need to take a better look, or you can go to simthick.com if you want to take a look for yourself. Now, with that all being said, the Scout class. What about gadgets? Well, I always say that the Scout class is an extremely underrated class for those who know how to use it, but I'd say that especially in this game, those who use everything that the class has to offer will actually be more impactful than something like the Assault class, and here's why. Visibility is something that is extremely restricted in Battlefield 5, obviously. It's very polarizing, and besides the raw firepower of the bolt-action rifles, visibility is the one thing that snipers hold over the rest of the class's head, being able to see tanks and players far away before the rest of the team can, and marking them. That's absolutely huge, especially since there's no 3D spotting. So, I said this a year and a half ago, and I'll say it again. Make it an objective of yours to spot as many people as you can when you're not actively getting kills, whether it be through your sniper scope or through your gadgets. Personally, I think the flare is kind of a dud, so I would use the spotting scope instead, but that's just me personally. The spawn beacon is a Battlefield staple that is finally back as well, and that is a good option for you to use for a multitude of reasons. Not only does it provide spawns for your team, but it also provides you with the opportunity, if you hide it well enough, to be essentially 2 places at once. Say you get overrun at your first spot, You die, spawn on your spawn beacon that is overlooking where you just died or on a different part of the map, you're in business. I think throwing knives are a very high risk, high reward gadget, especially after the nerf. I enjoy using them, but they get me killed a lot when I miss. I would honestly just use a grenade instead and then use your pistol for those close range gunfights. And that is the end of the video, ladies and gentlemen. I know it's late. I worked pretty much most of the afternoon on this video. I wanted to get it out as a New Year's present. Thank you all so much for a wonderful 2018. It's my second full year on YouTube. I started around, I guess, January of 2017. It's been a fantastic 2 years, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all so much for subscribing and being here. And if this is your first time at the channel, make sure that you do drop a like on the video if you enjoy it, subscribe if you're new, and turn on post notifications if you haven't already. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Nick, or Catalyst, and I will see you all another time.